Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the magic meta mad. Now, I was looking through the other category on decks that had 5-0'd in Modern recently, on MTG Goldfish, and there was this particular red-white Taxes deck that I saw, and I like it because it's running Gemstone Caverns, Simian Spirit Guide, Magus of the Moon, and Seasoned Pyromancer. And after the 5-color land shenanigans of yesterday, I've been feeling particularly salty all morning, and it's kind of to the point that I don't actually want to play Modern right now, which is kind of a scary feeling when 2 out of 3 videos every 3 days that you make are in the Modern format. So in order to keep up with expectations, I figured I'd play something that theoretically the games will be quicker, and we maybe can punish people with greedy mana bases. And I hope this works. I, once again, am terrible at playing Taxes decks, so some of my losses will almost certainly be ascribed to punts, as just behind Tron in the Modern format, punts are what I'm most known for. But yeah, let's see what happens. I don't know if this deck can handle all of the card disadvantage that we run with Simian Spirit Guides and stuff, but we'll find out. Alrighty, round 1, here we go. We have lost the die roll, and we are against Hummingbird. Clever, I like it. Alright, I am going to keep this. We are on the draw with a Gemstone Caverns, which is usually a good thing. And I'm going to exile Snow-Covered Plains, I think. Turn 1 Leonin Arbiters and turn 1 Thalias seem like a great way to start off a Modern game. Opponent fetches and shocks Watery Grave into a Inquisition of Kozilek, so they can have their pick of any of the 3 cards we have. If they don't have removal, they're going to take Leonin Arbiter. If they do have removal, they're going to take Stoneforge Mystic. I guess if they don't have removal and they have fetch lands in hand is when they would take Leonin Arbiter here. Okay, they take Aether Vial, so they're confident they can interact with whatever we're going to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the Must Answer Creature if they have more fetch lands. See if I can't force them into using their removal. And we're going to follow this up with an Archon of Emeria. Okay. Opponent does have a Fatal Push. They do not have a fetch land. Alright, we untap. We draw Inspiring Vantage. I'm going to play Inspiring Vantage so it comes in untapped. I guess I should have played Ghost Quarter because now... Oh, it's not symmetrical for the non-basic lands. But we'll play Archon of Emeria. We're almost to the point that we can Stoneforge for Batterskull and have Batterskull come in just off of a hard cast. Polluted Delta coming in tapped is great. So, play Ghost Quarter, go to combat, attack for 2. When it goes down to 15, and we will play Stoneforge Mystic. Tutor up. I think I'm going to go with Sword of Fire and Ice here. I would not mind the additional card advantage. Okay, opponent fetches Polluted Delta. They get a basic island. They play an island. 4 mana for Jace the Mind Sculptor. I'll probably unsummon Archon of Emeria here. Yep. Okay. We untap. We draw Aether Vial. So we have the choice of a few different things here. I could play Aether Vial and Archon, and I could hit Jace for 1. I could Stoneforge in Sword of Fire and Ice and play another Stoneforge. I could also Stoneforge in, or activate Stoneforge Mystic, put in Sword of Fire and Ice, and equip it, but that fails to another Fatal Push. I think the plan here is to play Aether Vial, play Archon, and then hit Jace. This does feel a little bit awkward and wasteful, but what can you do? Hit Jace down to 1. Something has activated the Dachshund once again. Okay. Opponent starts with a Brainstorm. Let's see that non-basic land enter the battlefield tapped. That'd be great. It's a tapped Mystic Sanctuary. Alright. So opponent was not able to put Fatal Push on top. Alright, Aether Vial, untapped. We will use its ability. Draw Magus of the Moon. So go to combat, and I hate the text list promo. Tap all creatures your opponents control, draw a card. So I could, in response, put Sword of Fire and Ice in and suit up Archon, or I can just cast Magus and take them off of black mana. I think casting Magus is more powerful here. So we're going to go to second main, because if my opponent wants to unlock their mana, they have to downtick Jace, which would give them black mana and allow them to Fatal Push. We're going to tap this way because if my opponent does answer Magus, I want to have Ghost Quarter available. We've taken ourselves off of white mana as well because we got rid of a basic Plains when we started, but we do have Aether Vial, so hopefully that can cover whatever we don't have. Non-basic lands will still enter the battlefield tapped for our opponent, even if they do enter as a mountain. We will not be able to Stoneforge in equipment, and that is the big deal there. Okay, opponent downticks Jace to unlock their black mana. Opponent Snapcaster Mage for Fatal Push, probably Fatal Push. Oh, they can't Snapcaster Mage for Fatal Push because they can't cast more than one spell a turn. They play a Field of Ruin tapped. We untap. Aether Vial, ticking up. Draw Sunbaked Canyon. So, play Sunbaked Canyon. Activate Stoneforge. And we're going to go for the Sword Equip. Nice! That's right, we taxed them out. Okay. I kind of like Mirren Crusader for just not being answerable with Fatal Pushes. Seems like it might actually be pretty good. Question is, what do we go down? And I have no experience sideboarding with this deck at all. We could want Rest in Peace because our opponent does use Mystic Sanctuary Snapcaster as well. So I'm going to start making a pile over here, I guess, of cards I'm considering. We are going to bring in a Boil. A Braid, probably not necessary, neither is Dismember or Winds of Abandon. Revoker could name a Jace, I guess, but I don't think that's going to be as good. So what is not good versus our opponent? I think I'm just going to bring in Boil, and maybe... I think that's it, actually. I'm going to bring in Boil, and I'm going to go down one Magus of the Moon, because they're a little bit at odds with each other. We're going to try it like this. I tend to drastically over sideboard or drastically under sideboard. So I guess we'll see what works and what happens. So this is a turn 1 Leonin Arbiter, which is not as good because my opponent is playing fetch lands and Fatal Push. I could play a Plains and Sandbag for a turn, then Simian Spirit Guide out Leonin Arbiter and Ghost Quarter immediately. But then we're not doing anything else with the rest of this hand. I think I have to mulligan just because that hand doesn't do very much at all. I like this hand a lot. I'm going to put one Chalice back. Aether Vial is our only 1-mana spell. Opponent starts Misty, cracks Misty, finds a Watery Grave, untapped, into an Inquisition. Okay, well, my opponent can take anything they want here. They probably take Vial. Yep. Okay. We untap and draw Ghost Quarter, play Plains, pass the turn. So my opponent is either going to play another Hand Hate spell or leave up a 2-mana counter for this Chalice. Draw Sunbaked Canyon. Play a Plains. We are going to run out Chalice. We don't play any 1-drops. Our opponent plays Fatal Push, Inquisition. Alright, it resolves. That's good news. Opponent does not crack Flooded Strand. They play Scalding Tarn. They're trying to see if we have a Magus of the Moon or not. Or if we're going to play Magus first, I guess. We can no longer play this Aether Vial. So I'm going to go with Ghost Quarter and Archon. Okay. Opponent fetches with Flooded Strand, gets an island. Fetches with Scalding Tarn, gets an island. Archon resolves. They cast nothing. Opponent plays a basic island. Probably Jace here. Yep, it's Jace. They bounce Archon. Okay. So we draw Thalia. We're definitely playing a 3-mana spell this turn. The question is it Magus or is it Archon? And I think it's Magus. This might force another Jace unsummon, which the longer we can delay Jace drawing any cards, the better. Okay, opponent brainstorms with Jace. plays a Polluted Delta as a mountain. We untap. We draw Leon and Arbiter. Attacking Jace is very tempting. The problem with attacking Jace is my opponent almost certainly has a Snapcaster to block. So I think the play right now is just play out Archon. Okay, they have Aether Gust. So we put Magus. I think we put Magus on top. At this point in time, I'm fine redrawing Magus at the Moon. Opponent fetches Polluted Delta, gets a basic Swamp, so they have a Fatal Push. And they can't use it because they have Aether Gust, or they cast Aether Gust. Okay, opponent brainstorms. Plays a Flooded Strand tapped. Passes. We untap. We draw Magus. So, go to combat. Maybe eliminate. Okay. Go to second main. The question is, do we play Thalia Arbiter, or do we play Magus of the Moon? And I think we play Magus. Beating Jace's card advantage is really tough. I think if my opponent actually has Fatal Push, using Magus to shut off Flooded Strand is the way to go. Okay. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand after using Jace unsummon mode. Getting a Mystic Sanctuary, probably putting Eliminate on top of the deck. Okay. So they are drawing Eliminate next turn. 6 mana for a Grave Titan. Yeah, I don't think we're beating a Grave Titan. Alright, going to game 3. I think Mirren Crusader is going to be what we want to do here. Question is, what do we bring out for Mirren Crusader? I could bring in Winds of Abandon to answer a potential Grave Titan, but that seems like planning for failure. I still like Chalice, especially on the play with Simian Spirit Guide. I think I'm going to cut 1 Seasoned Pyromancer, and I like Maul of the Skyclaves, especially with Mirren Crusader. I'm not really keen on trimming a land. I think I am going to cut 1 Chalice. It's really good in our opener, but it's really bad, I think, any other time. We'll play first. No mana acceleration. We can't cast any of our spells, so we're going to mulligan. Alright, this potentially works out. So I'm going to keep, and I'm going to put back Sacred Foundry. Yeah. I don't think us taking damage off of Sunbaked Canyon is going to matter more than our other spells. It is unfortunate if we get Inquisition, my opponent just takes Leon and Arbiter, and a lot of the power of this hand goes away. But I think in the ideal circumstance, if my opponent doesn't have any hand hate, they did mulligan to 5. If they don't have any hand hate, we stomp on turn 2. Turn 3, we play Arbiter and Ghost Quarter them. Then turn 4, we Ghost Quarter them again. Kind of depends on how many lands my opponent has in their opener. And what spells they lead on, if any. We draw Gemstone Caverns, play Sunbaked Canyon, and pass. Opponent plays a Flooded Strand, so we're going to stomp them on our end step. Okay, they do nothing. We untap. We draw Sunbaked Canyon. Play Ghost Quarter. Play Arbiter. This should at least force them to crack their lands. Okay. They crack Flooded Strand. They get an island. They need a counter spell here. Because if they crack for a swamp and they Fatal Push, we can blow up their island in response. Okay. So now we wait. I mean, my opponent could have land and then... We untap. We draw Seasoned Pyromancer. Play another Ghost Quarter. Go to combat. Attack for 2. And we're going to just try and make this as tricky as we can for them. Opponent goes down to 14 and passes. The instant they use really any amount of mana, they're going to be in trouble. Okay, we untap. We draw Stoneforge Mystic. So we could play Sunbaked Canyon and play Seasoned Pyromancer. I kind of like Stoneforge Mystic just a little bit more. I could also just cast Bone Crusher Giant, but I want to incentivize them to use their mana. I'm going to go with Seasoned Pyromancer, actually. Because Stoneforge Mystic I would have to pay for if I wanted to search. And I've got a feeling they have a way to answer Leon and Arbiter. I almost played it out, and I avoided the punt, which I feel like is an achievement in itself. Okay, my opponent attempts to eliminate Leon and Arbiter. I think they can just pay 2 at an arbitrary time. I don't think that we can respond to them paying 2 if I remember, so maybe this was actually incorrect. Okay, I'm gonna let that happen. Seasoned Pyromancer enters. We discard Gemstone Cavern Stoneforge. We draw a Simian Spirit Guide Stoneforge. Okay, no, pass the turn. I could have Simian Spirit Guided out Bone Crusher Giant there, but my opponent was still representing Aether Gust. Opponent plays a second field. Field of Ruins, a Sunbaked Canyon. Sure. I wonder how many non-basics they play. Get a Plains. Alright, we untap. We draw Leon and Arbiter. Alright, so we gotta bait them into using their mana. Go to combat. Start with an attack for 3. If they do have an Aether Gust, we want to play a red spell. The problem is, I can't... like, if I exile Simian Spirit Guide to cast Bone Crusher Giant, my opponent is going to know something is up. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and resolve Stoneforge Mystic. I'd prefer this to get Archmage Charmed or something. Then we can Simian Spirit Guide out Leon and Arbiter, and then just double Ghost Quarter them. Yes! All according to Keikaku. Editor's note, Keikaku means plan. Oh, gotcha. That's right. Mystic Sanctuary shenanigans. Punishing greedy mana bases. Feels so good after yesterday. I'll see you guys in round 2. Alrighty, round 2, here we go. Alright, we'll play first. Turn 1, Vial. Turn 2, Chalice. I could put Chalice on 0 as well. I have no idea what I'm against, but I think that might be prudent. I'm going to try keeping this. Kind of wish I had a Simian Spirit Guide, though. So we're going to start Plains, Vial, Chalice on 0. Pass the turn. Opponent starts Flooded Strand. Cracks Flooded Strand. For Plains, plays Sigarda's Aid. Alright. Untap, uptick Vial. We draw Leon and Arbiter, which is good. I'm going to play a Gemstone Caverns, and I'm going to put Chalice on 1, because now my opponent can no longer cast Colossus Hammer to equip it, and most of the spells in their deck, they'll have to Stoneforge it into play. Pure Steel Paladin. Oh, I'm so glad I put that Chalice on 0. Okay, we draw a Seasoned Pyromancer, so play Sunbaked Canyon, and I'm going to go with Leon and Arbiter, because I don't want them tutoring. Pass the turn. I'm going to Vial. I should have actually played Thalia and then waited to Vial in Arbiter. That was a mistake, but we still won, and that's all that matters. Alright, time for Quadra Abrade. I believe it is also possibly time for Revoker. Question is, what am I taking out for Abrade? Probably Magus of the Moon. My opponent's land base is almost all basic plains. It does shut off like Inkmoth Nexus, but I don't think we're going to need it. I kind of want to put Phyrexian Revoker in this deck so I can stop them from equipping their equipment, because it also stops the equipability of like Pure Steel Paladin, making the equip cost 0 and stuff. Maybe I just want like Dismember and Winds of Abandon, but I'm going to try with just the Abrades. Chalice is a lot worse on the draw than it is on the play, but if we... I was going to say, if we have a Gemstone Caverns Chalice hand, this would be great. Unfortunately, even with 1 rainbow mana, I think this is a mulligan. This, however, is not. So I'm going to keep. The question is, what do we pitch to Gemstone Caverns, and what do we put on the bottom of our deck? I think Seasoned Pyromancer is going to be a great way to recoup card advantage. Sword of Fire and Ice may not actually be that good. So I'm going to put Sword back in the deck, and I'm going to pitch Bone Crusher Giant. Well, yeah, I'm going to pitch Bone Crusher Giant. We're going to go for a turn 1 Chalice of the Void. Apparently I can exile just Stomp. That's weird. You can choose which half you want to exile, and then it exiles the card. Okay, opponent starts Bauble, Bauble, Plains, Hammer. We untap, we draw Archon of Emeria. Play a Plains. I really suspect my opponent is going to play Pure Steel Paladin and equip next turn. But the fact that they're sacking Bauble means probably not. Maybe Chalice on 0 is better than Chalice on 1 versus this deck. There's a distinct possibility that that is the case. I regret not playing Leon and Arbiter. Okay. We untap, we draw Snow-Covered Plains. Play Archon of Emeria. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Inkmoth Nexus tapped. Second Pure Steel. They can't attack. We untap. Draw another Chalice. Chalice on 0, which prevents me from playing Arbiter, but it stops them from playing almost every artifact in their deck. I am going to attack because I need to start pressuring my opponent. Really want to top deck a Ghost Quarter. Because they could have like a 2-mana artifact here. Okay, they play Core Outfitter, so they can suit up a Pure Steel Paladin. That is an issue. I need to draw on a Braid, because we're taking a lot of damage here. Okay, opponent attacks for 14, we go down to 6. We untap, we draw a second Arbiter. So, play out an Arbiter as a blocker. Pass the turn. You know what? They can animate Inkmoth to add to their Metalcraft. So we may have to block an Inkmoth suited up next turn with Archon of Emeria. Second Inkmoth. Yeah, we really need an Abrade. Oh, no, Colossus Hammer makes it lose flying. I always forget that, despite playing Hammer Time so often. Okay, 3 mana, opponent puts Luris into their hand. We untap. We draw another Chalice of the Void. Well, play Arbiter. Pass the turn. The issue is if my opponent plays Luris and is able to move the hammer over, they're going to start gaining so much life. Yeah, I think Chalice on 0 should be the primary thing versus my opponent's deck, because the version with Pure Steel Paladin plays like Ornithopters and stuff. Okay, opponent decides against attacking with the other 2 drops, because they would just lose them to Archon of Emeria. Block again with Leon and Arbiter. Opponent plays Luris of the Dream Den, and a Godless Shrine tapped. We untap. Red mana, please. Bone Crusher Giant. Well, we can stomp Luris, or we can just cast Bone Crusher Giant and use it as a blocker. I think we've lost because, well, I guess my opponent isn't able to play more than 1 spell a turn. Because, like, they only have 1 card in hand. I can just stomp Luris right now and get it out of the way. The problem is if I do that, they're going to hit us for 4, and then we only have 1 blocker, and then they're going to hit us for 2. We would be dead unless we top-decked red mana next turn, and it would still leave us kind of wide open. So we're just going to play the Giant. Opponent cracks Mishra's Bauble. They untap. They draw a card. Okay, so my opponent moved the hammer over to Inkmoth Nexus and is now swinging out. So we got to block Inkmoth Nexus, and then it doesn't matter what else we block, we die. So, on to game 3. I think I want Dismember as an additional piece of removal here. And I'm gonna go down... kind of want to go down an Aether Vial, really. Let's try this. That's probably incorrect. It's probably better to cut like a Spirit Guide or something, but I really, really want to have like Chalice on 0, Chalice on 1, turn 1. That would be amazing. Alright, we'll play first. I can't keep a Simian Spirit Guide only hand. I think this works. So I'm going to put back Leon and Arbiter, play Sacred Foundry tapped, and play Chalice on 0, turn 1. Turn 2, I can play an Arbiter, and then into like a Thalia. Maybe having redundant Arbiters here is better than Thalia in this matchup. I'm going to try putting back an Arbiter. Not sure if that's correct. Chalice on 1 is ideal, but we're gonna stop any Mishra's Bauble shenanigans. Chalice on 0 versus Mishra's Bauble just means that, like, sketchily keepable hands with Mishra's Bauble cantrips are way worse than usual. Alright, we're getting Thought Seized. If my opponent takes Arbiter, I'm gonna be like, man, I wish I'd had another Arbiter. This might be a tough hand to pick from for them. They take Thalia. Okay. Draw Seasoned Pyromancer, which is good. Play Arbiter. So we shut off any fetch lands, Stoneforge Mystics, that sort of deal here. Opponent has another Thoughtseize, and they can take a Braid. They play a Plains, and they play a Hammer. Alright, if we draw a land, that would be ideal. Perfect. Play Inspiring Vantage. Play Seasoned Pyromancer. We'll draw some cards. 2 Aether Vials. Not really what I was hoping to draw, but okay. Attack for 2. Take my opponent down to 12. My opponent untaps. Plays a Snow-Covered Plains. Puts Lurrus into their hand. We untap. We draw Thalia. So, play out Aether Vial. Play out Thalia. Go to combat and attack for 4. Take my opponent down to 7. My opponent untaps. They can play Lurrus. They play Silent Clearing. I would like to draw on a Braid, I think. If I draw on a Braid and my opponent plays Lurrus and they lose even 1 life, we kill them. Because my opponent has to tap a Silent Clearing at this moment to play Lurrus. So unless they have, like, Path, I don't think they can stay alive. And Thalia is making this way harder on them. Okay. So my opponent plays Lurrus, and then cannot play anything else due to Thalia. We untap. Aether Vial ticking up. Draw Snow-Covered Plains. Sack Canyon to draw. We draw Dismember, and that's the game. Nice. Well, we're 2-0. I'll see you guys in round 3. Alrighty, round 3. Here we go. Alright, I would like to play first. This is a turn 1 Aether Vial and Chalice on 1 into nothing else. You know what? Sure. Let's do it. To watch us top deck mono lands here. There's one little awkward thing about Aether Vial in this deck, and that is Aether Vial never does something on 1 counter. So, like, at best, you have to wait 2 turns for it to do something. Okay, so we'll start Snow-Covered Plains. Play Aether Vial. Opponent did mulligan to 6. Play Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. That moment you play 5 of your 7 cards on turn 1. Opponent plays a Seachrome Coast, which is kind of telling me this is ad nauseum. We draw Archon of Emeria. Play Sacred Foundry, tapped, pass the turn. If I draw another Chalice, I'm going to put Chalice on 0 so they can't Pact of Negation. If this is indeed ad nauseum. Archon of Emeria should actually, I think, win us the game in that scenario specifically. Because I don't think ad nauseum can win without casting multiple spells. Okay, we draw Ghost Quarter. I'm going to play Ghost Quarter, and I'm not going to cast Archon. I don't want to give them the ability to have a Pact of Negation right now. I'm going to wait an Aether Vial. I think my opponent, if they are ad nauseum, there's no other deck that plays this way. So, at the very minimum, they have to have Slaughter Pact. Okay, my opponent plays out Thassa's Oracle. Okay, we untap. We should have, in general, a good matchup versus them because we attack their mana very hard. Okay, we draw Thalia. Play Gemstone Caverns. Play Thalia. Thalia is tough for them to overcome. Now I can Violin Archon. No real reason to wait. Thalia resolving shows that that was pretty safe. Okay, opponent plays a City of Brass tapped. Unfortunately, Thalia cannot attack through a Thassa's Oracle. We untap. Aether Vial gonna stay on 3. I don't want to Ghost Quarter my opponent unless I can stop them from searching, because we do play Magus of the Moon. Okay, we draw Stoneforge. Go to combat. Attack for 2 in the air. Chalice of the Void on 1 stops all of their cantrips and Angel's Grace. So Stoneforge here can go and get... I think Sword is going to be the fastest clock. Sword of Fire and Ice, because we only play Fire and Ice, we don't play Feast and Famine in this deck. Plus, the extra card draws will get us to a Magus of the Moon, and I think if we play Magus, we win. Alright, so we pass. Opponent untaps. Plays a Dark Slick Shores tapped. No attacks. So we untap. Aether Vial gonna stay on 3. Okay, we draw Arbiter. I don't think this changes our play this turn. My opponent does not play Tutors. They play Spoils of the Vault, but they don't tend to actually search their library. There was an innovation made in Ad Nauseam a long time ago that playing the temples and not shuffling your deck actually matters a huge amount, because for each card that you draw that you don't want, you're closer to drawing cards you do want. So in general, you play a shuffleless version of Ad Nauseam. Now, it's not always the case. Okay, well, if we don't want this Arbiter, we can Violin Seasoned Pyromancer and try and draw Magus of the Moon, which I actually think I'm going to do here. Because I don't want to shuffle my opponent's deck. I don't want them to get a basic land and be better against Magus of the Moon. So I think Arbiter is not the way to go here. Activate Aether Vial, put in Seasoned Pyromancer, discard Arbiter, draw Sunbaked Canyon and another Ghost Quarter, untap. My opponent is also dead in 2 turns. Aether Vial gonna stay on 3. We draw Arbiter. Okay. Play Sunbaked Canyon. Sack it to draw. We get a Sacred Foundry. Okay, go to combat. So my opponent is dead in 1 attack. After this, if they don't play Phyrexian Unlife. So we hit them for 6. We draw Batterskull, which we can Stoneforge in if we'd like. I think Lotus Bloom is going to be way too slow here. They can't Angel's Grace to Fog. They can't Spoils into Thassa's Oracle to win the game, and they would need to play Phyrexian Unlife before that. I think we've got him here. Okay. This is a matchup where I'm going to miss having Skyclave Apparition pretty heavily. I think because they play so much artifact mana, I want to Braid. They don't use the Grave, they don't play a lot of islands, so no Rest in Peace or Boil. Revoker hitting Penthead Prism or Lotus Bloom could be important, but I need to make room for a Braid first. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut Bone Crusher Giant. I think Maul of the Skyclaves. Or do I want to cut Aether Vial? Well, Aether Vial protects us against their 0 mana counters. And it synergizes quite well with, like, Archon. Magus of the Moon is really strong. Arbiter is not as good here unless we get some early Ghost Quarter action. Chalice is super important in this matchup, and I don't want to give it up. I don't like cutting any of the, like, artifact Stoneforge package unless I know I don't need it. So the question is, what do we cut? I think I'm going to cut a Pyromancer, and I'm going to cut an Arbiter, because none of their natural effects search. It's just important to our mana denial plan. Alright, turn 1 Thalia is good versus this deck, and to a turn 2 Blood Moon might actually be GG. So play Gemstone Cavern. We're going to exile an Inspiring Vantage. I'm not going to exile a Thalia, even though I have redundant Thalias, because some Ad Nauseam decks play Thoughtseize out of the board. They start Darkslick Shores. Draw Seasoned Pyromancer. Play Inspiring Vantage. Play Thalia. Okay. Thalia does do one thing negative for us in this matchup, and that is if my opponent has 3 lands of 3 separate colors, they can actually play Pentad Prism with 3 charge counters, which can be a huge problem for us. Okay, we draw Simian Spirit Guide. They cannot free counterspell us because we have Thalia and they have no mana, unless they have a Simian Spirit Guide. We're going to play Magus here. We can't attack through a wall of shards for a very long time, but I'm not really concerned with it at the moment. It gains us a ton of life, but that's not important because I don't even know if they run Lightning Storm anymore. I think they still do because it's pretty low opportunity cost. And it does let them win at instant speed, whereas Thassa's Oracle, they have to win at sorcery. So I imagine they still do, but Wall of Shards couldn't... Oh, man! That Gemstone Mine entered with 0 counters because Magus of the Moon. So even if Magus of the Moon dies, that's not a land. Alright, we draw Gemstone Caverns. I'm going to play out Seasoned Pyromancer and pitch Spirit Guide. And I think Gemstone Caverns, I'm going to keep a redundant Thalia because I feel like it's important. Plus, Gemstone Caverns we can't play. It's still legendary, even if it is just a mountain. So, okay. Play an Inspiring Vantage, so it's out there and untapped. Pass the turn. Next turn, we can start attacking into Wall of Shards with Seasoned Pyromancer, Magus of the Moon. But my opponent right now is on the draw their basic land naturally plan, which is pretty slow. They gain us 2 life because of Wall of Shards accumulate. Oh, those Gemstone Mines are not lands! Tap, remove a mining counter from Gemstone Mine. Add 1 mana of any color. They have no mining counters. You can't actually activate their mana abilities unless you have an Urborg. Then they're swamps. Okay, opponent plays a Pentad Prism on 1, so they do have 1 mana of any color. They did play it for 3 mana. I'm not gonna play Ghost Quarter. We'll play a Sunbaked Canyon. Go to combat. And it's unlikely they have anything that does 1 damage. They could hardcast Lightning Storm under a Blood Moon to kill Magus of the Moon, but they are so far behind on their mana right now. Even if they do kill Magus of the Moon. Opponent has a path for Magus, sure. Well, they've shut off a lot of their own mana. Get a Plains. Gonna sack Sunbaked Canyon to draw. Okay, we draw another land. That's no good. They block with Wall of Shards. We do no damage to them. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. We gain some life. They have 2 mana. They can play a 1 mana or 0 mana spell. They play a Seachrome Coast tapped. I guess this technically means that Magus of the Moon... Magus of the Moon would be a combo with, like, Dark Depths. Ah, yes. Opponent has made the rude discovery that 2 of their lands no longer produce mana. Quick, someone get me another Blood Moon. Alright, we untap. We draw Spirit Guide. Play Ghost Quarter. Cast Spirit Guide. Pass the turn. Okay. Wall of Shards is now gaining us tons of life. They play a Plains. They probably have Phyrexian on life here. Yep. I'm gonna Ghost Quarter their Plains. I should have actually waited to do that on my turn because they do have Pact of Negations. But if I draw another Ghost Quarter, it's gonna be even better. So my opponent has resolved Phyrexian on life. We still need to stop them from casting Ad Nauseam and such. Okay, so we're going to go to combat. and attack with Spirit Guide Pyromancer. Okay, opponent chumps Pyromancer, or just blocks him. I mean, they don't really chump from this position. Cast Magus. Oh, they can't even Pact of Negation right now. I guess they could, but their last two cards would have had to have been Pact of Negation, Angel's Grace, because they didn't have enough mana to pay for the 5 mana or you lose the game. Although, I did turn their Gemstone Mines back into mountains. So, I guess in that regard, I've given them more mana than they had. But they are very far away from casting the spells they need to win the game. So, go to combat. Attack for 6. Opponent chumps the or just blocks the Pyromancer. We hit them for 4. Play a redundant Magus, which is another creature that can attack. Okay, they have to gain us 6 life now. Our life total has kind of lost all meaning. It's just so long as it's big enough for Lightning Storm to not be lethal. Okay, we untap, draw a Gemstone Cavern, go to combat, attack for 8. Opponent takes 6 and goes to 8. Okay, they untap. We gain 7 life. Alright, we untap. We draw Stoneforge. Oh, I forgot to play Sacred Foundry, I think. Well, play out Stoneforge, Mystic. Go get Maul of the Skyclaves, I think? Because whatever we put Sword of Fire and Ice on is just what's going to get blocked. Same, I guess, with Maul and Batterskull. Maul just equips this turn, so... Play Maul. Put it on Thalia. And we want to attack with everything this turn because we need our opponent to go into negative life total. Phyrexian Unlife is worded very trickily. So if they are at 1 life and you attack them for 1,000, they go to negative 999 with 0 poison counters. They don't actually start accumulating poison counters until their life total is 0 or less. So you need to keep that in mind if you're playing a deck that has like Lightning Bolt in it. That you need to reduce their life total to 0 before a big swing. Phyrexian Unlife plus something like Angel's Grace can keep them at 1 and completely fog your swing and then give them a whole extra turn, and then you can finally start giving them poison counters. So you need to be aware of that when you do that. Okay. Okay. Opponent gains us 8 life, and they have 1, maybe 2 turns to try and find a way to win. We have exactly lethal on board right now. So we untap, we draw Chalice. Is putting Chalice on 1 or 0 important here in any way? I think putting it on 1 might be. So put Chalice on 1, because that's the Angel's Grace Spoils of the Vault number. So we attack, our opponent blocks Thalia with Wall of Shards, and then takes 10 damage for 10 poison counters. I think that does it. I could have put it on 0 for Pacts, but I think actually hitting a combo piece number with it is more important, because they can't pay for Pact anyway. They can't even Pact and then Angel's Grace, because Chalice of Void prevents that, so. Awesome. Well, we're 3-0. I'm going to take a quick break and eat food, because it's been sitting here for a minute, and then I'm going to do round 4. Alright, starting this recording a little bit early, because I'm hyper-paranoid about actually recording and making sure there's a new video file now, after getting burned on that vintage cube. So I'll see you guys in round 4. Well, I had to restart Moto, because it crashed at time in queue 0 seconds, after hanging there for a while. So hopefully round 4 is actually going to start after this. Alrighty. Round 4, here we go. I would love to play first. Well, it's a turn 1 Magus of the Moon. Is that good? That might be good. We're gonna try it. Hope you drew your basics. Nobody expects the Blood Moon Inquisition. Alright, so we're gonna start Snow-Covered Plains, Guide, Blood Moon? Magus of the Moon? Watch this be like mono-red burn that absolutely does not care about Magus. Alright, well it's a deck that plays basic plains. And we've drawn 3 Gemstone Caverns. Go to combat, attack for 2. Play Aether Vial. Pass the turn. We didn't get Pathed, which would completely negate this as a hand. Like, a single removal spell is just like... It's like, bruh. What are you even doing? Alright, opponent plays a Flooded Strand as a mountain. Aether Vial gonna tick up. Opponent paths. Sure. Get a Plains. We draw a Seasoned Pyromancer, which we cannot cast for a very long time. I'm going to hold the Gemstone Caverns in hand. So my opponent might actually be like Control, which I would be very surprised to see. I think it's more likely that they're like Green-White Titan or Uro Omnath. And if they are Uro Omnath, wow at them having their only basic planes and path. They probably run more than that, and I'm just going to get salty, but I kept a bad hand. Don't keep hands like that. Okay, they play 2 snow-covered plains in that deck. Okay, they uptick to Fairy to 5. We untap, uptick Aether Vial. Alright, we're gonna concede. No way our hand beats that. So versus Uro Omnath, we're gonna bring in Boyle. I might want Phyrexian Revoker, just to name some of their planeswalkers. I'm going to cut a Bone Crusher Giant for Boyle. Chalice may not actually be good versus their deck. Like, Chalice on 1 does stop any Utopia Sprawls, Birds, Nobles, Path to Exile, so maybe it's worth. Alright. Well, I'm not going to make that much of an adjustment, but I'm also not super experienced playing this deck. I think as long as, like, we can stick a Leonin Arbiter and stop most of their fetch land shenanigans, will be good. I don't think Thalia is going to be enough. So I'm going to mulligan. Alright. Turn 1, Aether Vial. Turn 2, Chalice on 1. Sure. I'm going to put back Seasoned Pyromancer. So we'll start Inspiring Vantage. Play Aether Vial. Pass the turn. Opponent starts tap land. Aether Vial ticking up. We will use its ability. We draw Ghost Quarter. Play Plains. Put Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. So no paths, bolts, mana dorks, Utopia Sprawls. Aether Vial gonna tick up to 2. Really hoping I draw Leonin Arbiter. Chalice of the Void. Play Ghost Quarter. Pass the turn. Actually, I think I'm gonna play out a Stoneforge Mystic. We can Vial in the other one. Okay. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand for an island. If we had had Leonin Arbiter there, I think it would have been game over. They Mana Leak. Sure. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Misty. Passes. We're going to Vial in Stoneforge Mystic. Use its ability, get Batterskull. Untap. Vial is going to go up to 3. Okay, we get a Seasoned Pyromancer. I don't think Chalice on 0 is worth it. Do they play any 0-cost cards? Just looking at recent lists to see. I don't think so. Okay. So I'm going to play out... probably having the token is actually better. Which means we can play our entire hand at instant speed. And there's no reason to really not do that right now. So we'll just pass the turn. And like, even if my opponent plays out Teferi, we can still activate our stuff. Opponent plays a Steam Vents tapped. Passes the turn. So let's go ahead and put a Batterskull into play. We'll go ahead and Vial in Seasoned Pyromancer. Discard Chalice, get a 1/1. We draw Arbiter and Pyromancer. Untap. Vial gonna stay on 3. We draw Plains. Play a Plains. Go to combat. Swing with the team. See if we can't force our opponent to do something. Okay, they go down to 11. Play Arbiter. This should get countered. I imagine my opponent has a lot of counterspells stuck in hand. Opponent fetches with Misty, gets a tap land. Arbiter resolves. Okay, pass the turn. They play a Scalding Tarn. They're going to play Uro. Let's go ahead and nuke Triome. They can't search. Uro enters the battlefield. They gain some life. Then sack it. Play out another fetch land, neither of which they can activate. Put Seasoned Pyromancer into play. Maul of the Skyclaves. Untap. Vial gonna stay on 3. We draw Sacred Foundry. I could activate Stoneforge, put Maul into play. Doesn't matter. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, okay. We're going to put Maul of Skyclaves into play with Stoneforge Mystic because it plays around a counterspell and it is lethal. Cool. Okay, I kind of want Rest in Peace. I'm not going to lie, just a little bit. The question is, what would Rest in Peace be better than? And I don't think I'm taking out Aether Vial. I think dropping 2 Chalices when we're on the draw for Rest in Peace is totally fine, because Chalice kind of loses a lot of its utility. Don't think we want Dismember. Abrade's not going to be that useful. Winds of Abandon could be, hitting like an Uro or an Omnath. But if we're not engaging with our opponent's mana before that, I think we're in trouble. Unless we can get a huge boil on our opponent's like end step or something. Alright, no acceleration, but we do have ways to interact with our opponent. I'm going to keep this. If we draw Simian Spirit Guide, it's actually really good. Okay, opponent starts Scalding Tarn. We draw a Snow-Covered Plains. Play Sacred Foundry tapped. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Scalding Tarn. Getting Stomping Ground? Steam Vents? Catchery Triumph. Okay. Opponent untaps. Plays a Breeding Pool untapped. Into a Renin 6, which does answer Thalia. They pick up Scalding Tarn. So we are going to try and land a Rest in Peace here. Play Rest in Peace. So no more fetch land shenanigans with Ren. Unless my opponent has Enchantment Destruction, which I wouldn't put it past them to have. They uptick Renin 6. They play out Flooded Strand. They crack Flooded Strand. Probably get a basic island. Yep. They play Uro, putting in their other fetch land. Uro gets exiled, they gain life. It's a Scalding Tarn. We untap. We draw Archon of Emeria. Play a Plains. I think we gotta go with Magus, even though our opponent will have 2 islands. Okay. When it cracks Scalding Tarn in response, gets a Triome. So they have some kind of answer for Magus. It's probably a Lightning Bolt, actually. I mean, they do play red. We untap, we draw another Archon. So, play Ghost Quarter. And we don't really have a choice if our opponent has Snapcaster. We have to attack Renin 6 this turn. Actually, do we? I don't think we do. I'm going to just cast Archon. Well, I'm going to cast Aether Vial, and then I'm going to cast Archon. No sense in playing around a Censor, I think. If my opponent has Mana Leak, then they have Mana Leak. Aether Gust, Magus of the Moon. I will put it on top. Aether Vial resolves. Play Archon. Okay. Archon resolves. Opponent upticks Renin 6 to 7. I guess the retrace is not as important when we have a Rest in Peace on the battlefield, but opponent gains 3 life, draws a card, cannot put a land into play, and they cannot play any other spells that turn. I got a feeling that Archon of Emeria is going to be doing work. So play Sunbaked Canyon, go to combat, attack Renin 6, play Thalia. Oh, we can't do anything else. I knew that. I knew that. I understand how Archon of Emeria works. I should have played Magus. I definitely should have played Magus, because I could Vial in Thalia next turn and she just dies to Renin 6. Okay, opponent is just passing. Gonna crack Sunbaked Canyon. We get a Bone Crusher Giant. Untap. Aether Vial, gonna tick up to 2. We draw Seasoned Pyromancer. Alright, go to combat. Attack Renin 6. I probably should start attacking my opponent very soon. And I'm gonna try casting a redundant Archon, I think. Okay, my opponent mana leaks. So, opponent's turn. Rest in Peace, I feel very good about having brought in. Especially when we were on the draw. Opponent ticks Renin 6 up to 3 and passes. So we untap. They're going to path on their end step. Okay. Get a plains. Untap. Aether Vial, going to go up to 3. We draw Simeon's Spirit Guide. So we can play multiple things this turn. I'm going to cast Bone Crusher. Pass the turn. And I'm going to try Vialing in Magus of the Moon on my opponent's upkeep. They probably have another Aether Gust. With that tap. Celestial Purge, okay? Well, they got a Celestial Purge out of their hand. They play a Misty. They crack Misty. They get a Hallowed Fountain untapped. They play Teferi, Time Raveler. They bounce Bone Crusher, okay? We untap. Aether Vial gonna stay on 3. Draw Sacred Foundry. So Stomp Teferi. Opponent pitches Teferi to force. Okay. Play Sacred Foundry untapped. Exile Spirit Guide. Put Pyromancer into play. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to be able to play whatever I draw. I don't want to make any tokens right now. Alright. Play another Magus. Pass the turn. Eventually, they're going to run out of Aether Gusts and Celestial Purges, and they have. Well, that felt sweet, and we're 4-1. I tell you what, that was extremely cathartic after yesterday's rant. Alrighty. Round 5, here we go. We get to start Gemstone Cavern, so I could put down a turn 1 Archon of Emeria. What do I have to pitch if I'm putting down Gemstone Caverns? It's probably Batter Skull, which would feel very bad versus Burn, but we have Chalice. Yeah, we're going to exile Batter Skull. Opponent starts Emeria, Shattered Skyclave. Alright, so if this is Oops All Spells, I don't think Archon does it, but Archon does slow them down. So play Archon, pass the turn. Let me look up a list really quick so I have a better idea of what I'm doing. I would not feel bad about doing this against anybody. A lot of people play particularly net-decked stuff. So if we can get Chalice on 2, that would be really good. The problem with that is that would be kind of difficult. Chalice on 1 stops Thoughtseize, and that's about it. So let's start by attacking. I don't think I want to discard Chalice because I do have 4 lands now, but maybe just playing Seasoned Pyromancer and trying to increase the clock is better. We'll play out Ghost Quarter because we can. It also should disrupt our opponent's mana without needing Leon and Arbiter, but Leon and Arbiter helps anyway. They generally do not play any basics in the main. They will occasionally... Okay, well, that just makes things a lot easier. Play Arbiter. Nuke the green mana. Nuke the blue mana. And attack them for 5. I probably should have Ghost Quartered them last turn, but I don't think that would have stopped. They still could have... No, they wouldn't have been able to play Pentad Prism. Okay, opponent has to play another tap land. We untap, we draw Chalice, and opponent concedes. So definitely want Rest in Peace. I don't think we want Winds of Abandon or Dismember. Let me take a look. We do want a Braid. They play a lot of artifact stuff. And out of the sideboard, they're going to have a bunch of Thoughtseizes. I think I'm taking out Chalice of the Void entirely because they're so minimal that we actually have the chance to do anything with it. We're going to bring in a Braid because it can answer their Mana Rocks or if they side into Charbelcher. It's possible we want Revoker here. Dismember, Winds of Abandon, Mirran Crusader seem a little kind of meh. I think I cut Bone Crusher Giant. Magus of the Moon potentially does slow them down, but I actually don't think it's good here. And the reason that I say that is my opponent does have Pentad Prism and they do have Mana Rocks. This is going to make their lands come in untapped and not cost any life. So we're going to take out this pile of 10 for this pile of 10 and try it like this. Alright. It's a turn 1 Thalia. That should help a lot. So we're going to keep, and we're going to pitch basic plains to Gemstone Caverns. Opponent starts turn Timber, Symbiotic Wood. We draw Phyrexian Revoker. Play Inspiring Vantage. Play Thalia. Pass the turn. If we Revoker, we either name Salvage Titan or we name Charbelcher. I think I'm going to name Charbelcher to be safe. So first we're going to go to combat and attack. Play Revoker. Name Goblin Charbelcher. Pass the turn. Aether Vial is going to cost us 2 mana. Opponent can't cast their Mana Rock. We draw another backup Thalia. Do they tutor their deck at all with anything? Not really. They don't really search their deck. We could play Arbiter just to increase the clock, though, and I think that's fine. If they did side in a basic, then also Ghost Quarter gets more effective. Talk about that bear beatdown, or the Elite Vanguard beatdown, the 2-1s. Well, Thalia's doing major work here. Okay, we draw a Seasoned Pyromancer, which we will use to increase the clock. Hopefully also find us a Ghost Quarter. I think that would actually end the game. We're going to pitch Aether Vial and Batterskull. There's a land. Go to combat. Attack for 6. And next turn we're attacking for 10. So they have to have the win this turn. Or they have to have like a Pyroclasm. Come on. Come on. What do you have? What can you do? Versus the death and taxes, the only 2 certain things. Simian Spirit Guide, Undercity Informer. They have to have another Undercity. They have to have another Simian Spirit Guide to crack. Doesn't look like they do. We untap. Draw Sacred Foundry. Playing a land doesn't play around anything. Go to combat. Swing out. You can block 2 damage and take 8. So if they kill Thalia and they have a free way to gain life like Nourishing Shoal, that would... And we do it! We get the 5-0! In your face, greedy decks! We absolutely obliterated people's mana bases. Oh, I cannot tell you how cathartic this feels to have slain Uro Omnath and unexpected results. Thalia and Leon and Arbiter keeping people honest. Let's open some treasure chests, baby. Alright, treasure chest number 1, 5 play points, a Johnny's Chosen and Spawn Sire of Ulamog. Treasure chest number 2, we've got 10 play points and a Cathedral of War. Treasure chest number 3, 25 play points and a Hamletback Goliath. Treasure chest number 4, 5 play points, a Full Art Arcane Signet and Zur's Weirding, which I believe is still bugged. Treasure chest number 5, 20 play points, Belby Corrupted Observer and a Balance of Power. Treasure chest number 6, 10 play points and a Satyr Fire Dancer. Treasure chest number 7, 15 play points and a Liliana's Mastery. Treasure chest number 8, 5 play points, a Bone Dragon, and a Puppet's Verdict. Huh. Alright. Treasure chest number 8. Or maybe that was 9. Yeah, that was 9, because next one's 10 and the last one's 11. Shalai, Aghanim Occultist, and 5 play points. Treasure chest number 10. 10 play points, and an Aethersworn Adjudicator. And final treasure chest number 11, we've got 20 play points and a Mobilization. Oh my gosh. Well, I think we got a little bit lucky, but this deck absolutely kept honest people honest. Turn 1 Magus of the Moons, turn 1 Thalias, turn 1 Archon of Amerias, Leon and Arbiter Ghost Quarter, Stoneforge Mystic has a very fast clock. Chalice of the Void helped us beat Hammer Time. Like, oh man. I'm going to be playing this deck some more. Maybe not on stream, or maybe not for videos unless you guys really like this one. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I don't feel really qualified to talk about this deck, although it does seem like it does one thing and one thing only. Let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions, if you have any ideas, you like what you see, please leave a comment in the comments below. And remember, you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you are so inclined. It'd mean the world to me if you did. We're about 2/3 the way to monetization, which means I can start doing more content. Because right now it's all out of pocket and donations that I get from the Twitch channel. When I stream, people subscribe, they hand me money, and I recycle it all into the Magic the Gathering account. So much appreciated. I want you to know that you're all wonderful human beings, and I hope to see you guys again next time. Bye!